Get ready to witness the best taste on the internet. What up, weebs? I'm Echidnut, and I haven't been outside in over a month, so I'm gonna rank every single new anime from this season. Right now, Giguk has 3 million subscribers, and to pass him, I only need 3 million more subscribers. Hit that like button, boys, we can do this. Takt Op Destiny is an anime original series about a group of Americans who fight aliens with music. There's cute waifus, beautiful action, and good sound, so it's basically just Vivi mixed with Fallout New Vegas. The stunning animation and simp-worthy waifus would normally be the highlight for me, but I just find the setting so incredibly appealing. I hate using vague terminology like aesthetic and vibes, but post-apocalyptic Midwest America provides the perfect atmosphere for an anime like this. The world is so immersive, I feel like I'm actually in America. Of course, I could just be biased because I'm American, but this Japanese anime about America is making me feel more patriotic than anything America's ever done. This could easily be S tier, but I'm giving it an A for America. My Senpai is Annoying is a feel-good rom-com about two co-workers who fall in love with each other. They're basically Jim and Pam from The Office, and they are both adults, despite the common misconception that the girl is a 4,000-year-old demon lolly, while the man looks like a middle schooler from Tokyo Revengers. But don't worry, officer, there's nothing illegal about this relationship. I'm giving My Senpai is Annoying a confident A tier, because every episode puts me in a happy mood, and it's one of the most wholesome anime from this entire year. However, Komi Can't Communicate is even more wholesome. It's a wonderfully adapted comedy slice of life about overcoming severe anxiety. It has good animation, brilliant characters, and some very important themes that anyone with communication issues can relate to. For example, whoever made the subtitles for Netflix obviously has a communication disorder even worse than Komi-san. Netflix can't communicate, so fan subs are the only correct way to watch this anime, yet it's still one of the best rom-coms in the genre. I'm giving this a ranking of S tier, because anything less would be a sin. However, I don't think it's the best anime of the season. There's a couple anime airing right now that are a little bit better, but Tesla Note is not one of them. Tesla Nope is an anime about something, apparently. If anyone actually watches this anime, I would highly recommend playing a drinking game where you take a drink every time something is animated. Spoiler alert, you'll be safe to drive, because Tesla Note's animation is worse than a cutscene from a DS game. I don't know how else to explain this, but calling Tesla Note an anime feels morally wrong and somehow racist. This anime is so bad, it actually belongs below the D tier, buried underneath the tier list in a new category called money laundering. Blue Period sounds like it should be about Bubble Girl's tampons, but it's actually a young delinquent's meaningful journey toward becoming an artist, which incorporates the two conflicting themes of passion and self-confidence. It's a realistic but powerful piece of artistic philosophy that every aspiring artist absolutely must read. Yes, read. The anime adaptation is still worth a watch, but sadly, it deserved a lot better. For an anime about art, you would expect the animation to be at least good, but instead everything looks like it was drawn by this guy. You're in for a lot of disappointment if you compare it with the source material, but overall, it's still an above-average B-tier anime. Admitting that causes me tremendous pain because it had so much more potential, but B-tier isn't bad. D tier is bad, and that's exactly where the Fruit of Evolution belongs. This is a generic isekai parody that doesn't even pretend to be good, so we should at least respect how shameless it is about being shit. The humor is average, I guess, but it's even more generic than the plot, which isn't even worthy of being called a plot. For example, the main character falls in love with a gorilla. And normally, that would be considered a spoiler, but I said it anyway because no one will care. That's how bad this anime is, and unless you're a psychopath like me who enjoys garbage isekai, then the only reason to watch this is because you can lower your average mal score after you drop it. Selection Project is a new idol anime with a lot of nice characters. Here, I'll go ahead and list all of them for you. Just kidding. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of idol anime, and I also don't admit that I do, but Selection Project is one of the best in basically every category, including CGI. The premise is interesting too. It's a big singing contest where all the characters compete to become the world's #1 idol. At first, you might be overwhelmed by the immeasurable amount of waifus, but if you ask me, there's never enough. I'm giving this a C tier, even though it's one of the better idol anime available, because it's still pretty average compared to everything else airing this season. Muv-Luv Alternative is one of the most rushed anime I've ever seen. I'm putting it in D tier because the pacing reminds me of Emilia rapping. It's way too fast and the animation is almost as bad as the pacing. It's a garbage adaptation that doesn't even deserve a ranking. Kyoukai Senki is a new mecha by Studio Sunrise featuring a teenage boy who takes on the responsibility of saving the world. And by the world, I mean Japan, obviously. I'm not the biggest fan of mecha, but this season I finally took the Hajj and ended up really enjoying Kyoukai Senki. It has an oddly nostalgic vibe that kind of gives that same feeling you get when you listen to an old Pokemon soundtrack. The story and characters are a tad bit generic, but the mechas are surprisingly animated. Despite this anime's misleading mal score, I'm giving it a solid B tier, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys mecha. 86 is not really a mecha, it's more like a masterpiece with mechas. It began airing earlier this year, and in my tier list video for the spring anime season, I gave it a ranking of S tier. Well, that was a mistake, because S tier is simply not high enough to properly convey how good 86 truly is. At the very least, it's one of the top 3 new anime from 2021, and that's because Part 1 and Part 2 feel entirely different, yet they're both equally amazing, and together they form something worthy of being called Anime of the Year. 86 is still an 86 out of 10, but I don't recommend that you watch it. I demand that you watch it. Welcome to God tier. Yuki Yuna is a hero, has a 3rd season airing right now, and if you're a fan of this series, you're probably about to hate me because I'm putting it in C tier. But C tier isn't even bad, it's just average, and that's exactly what this series is. The characters are cute, the action is nice, but overall this is just another enjoyable yet average magical girl anime. And it feels roughly the same as all the hundreds of other magical girl anime I've watched alone in my room with an erection. Platinum End is an exciting battle royale anime with a main character who reminds me of Ishigami. He's very depressed and even tries to kill himself, but he's luckily rescued by a naked angel who's also best girl. I used to have a bit of an angel fetish until I read Chainsaw Man, but there's a lot of exciting twists and cliffhangers that make Platinum End one of the most entertaining anime from this season. Also, the sound effects are absolutely nut-shattering. Remember that this is a battle royale though, meaning it'll entertain us for at least a month or two until we eventually forget that it ever existed, like H1Z1. Platinum End isn't anything too groundbreaking, but its entertainment value is high enough to earn it a ranking of A tier. Can I make your ears happy in 180 seconds? Definitely made something happy, but it wasn't my ears. This is a new anime about ASMR. Yeah, they really made an entire anime about ASMR, and obviously they recommend you watch it with headphones because otherwise your parents will think you're watching hentai. The episodes have a duration of 3 minutes, which was a bit too long in my opinion, because honestly, the ASMR was way better in the manga. If you're seeking some real ASMR, just watch ReZero instead. Watching ReZero is generally my solution to most problems, although I can't exactly call this ASMR anime terrible, because it still has a better plot than Visual Prison. Watching Visual Prison feels like you're actually in prison. Fall 2021 has a bunch of new vampire anime, and this is the only one that sucks. The first episode had like 5 openings for some reason, and I really wanted to skip all of them. This anime made me genuinely uncomfortable because it's unironically more cringe than people who still say cringe unironically. Back when I was in high school, this girl I liked invited me over to her house to eat dinner, and I accidentally clogged her toilet. That's a painful memory I've tried to forget, but Visual Prison resurfaced every traumatic experience from my childhood, and somehow it's more cringe than all of them. D tier. The Night Beyond the Tricornered Window is a supernatural mystery drama about 2 men who work together to perform exorcisms while they basically fuck each other. You've heard of Blue Exorcist? Now get ready for I Blew an Exorcist. Yep, this is a new yaoi anime that I started watching because... Anyway, it's bad. The 2 main characters have no chemistry, and they're not even gay. That's right. In this anime, the only way to perform an exorcism is to exorcise the cum out of another man's balls, which isn't gay because it's just part of the job. I'm not joking. Apparently, the exorcism process turns the exorcist temporarily gay, and somehow that kills the ghost. The premise was interesting at first, but it just got way too goofy to take seriously. The author should have just made the characters gay, but no. Instead, the yaoi elements had to be forced into the plot sloppily without lubrication. It's just a really bad BL, so I'm giving it the D. Mushoku Tensei is an immersive isekai that follows a degenerate's journey toward redemption. It's the grandfather of hentai, and it's getting the best adaptation I've seen in a very long time. The atmosphere, world, story, and characters make every episode an adventure that just feels really good to watch. You know that amazing feeling you get when you finally kiss a girl for the first time? Yeah, me neither, but watching Mushoku Tensei probably gives a similar sensation. Without the controversy about the protagonist, Mushoku Tensei's MAL score would be at least a 9, but that still isn't high enough in my opinion. It isn't called Mushoku Ninsei. This is my personal favorite new anime from 2021, and it's okay if you disagree because only God can judge me. And by God I mean Roxy, so I'm putting Mushoku Tensei in God tier where it belongs. Let's Make a Mug 2 finally got a season 2. For some reason. Just in case you guys didn't watch the first season, which you didn't, it's a cute, relaxing, feel-good slice of life about pottery. If you don't have a pottery fetish, you'll probably get bored, but you never know. Maybe you'll find something really special about this anime. If you do a ton of acid first. The episodes are only 15 minutes long, but that's the same as Tokyo Revengers without the recap, so it wouldn't hurt to give this a watch. It's not a bad anime, just another average C-tier slice of life, so if that's your thing, go for it. Isekai Shokudou 2 is the second season of Restaurant in Another World. It's good, so if you aren't watching it because you haven't seen the first season yet, don't worry. Every episode basically serves the same purpose. The genre is food, the plot is food, the characters are food, I'm food, and you're food. The only requirement is that you eat something while you're watching it and hit the like button. B tier. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat is a brand new isekai that surprised me by how bad it wasn't. Just like the author's other work, it's not bad at all. In fact, the only bad part is how badass the main character is. He's an assassin who reincarnates as an assassin after getting assassinated. Except there's a unique twist where Aqua tells him to kill the hero instead of the typical Demon King. The story, sound, visuals, author, and overall enjoyment are unexpectedly promising. Although this won't be joining the Isekai Hall of Fame anytime soon, I'm gonna give it an A tier because I'm highly invested and it's really entertaining. Also, if this video is entertaining, subscribe. Mieruko-chan is a strange anime that seamlessly transitions between genres and moods. One minute it's a gripping suspense thriller, and then suddenly it becomes a lighthearted comedy / fappable ecchi. At first I thought this anime failed at being scary, but then I realized I was missing the point. At its core, Mieruko-chan is a mystery anime with horror elements that gradually changes into a surprisingly wholesome story. I definitely didn't expect it to go in that direction, but it seriously impressed me a lot. What makes it so special is how it takes a handful of conflicting elements from different genres and handles them harmoniously. However, it helps to highlight how it happens to heavily harness hilarious humor, haunting horror, and horny hentai. At first, I thought I would throw this in B tier or maybe even A tier, but I'm actually moving it up to S tier due to how beautifully it weaves together all those different genres to create a unique style. If you dropped this after the first few episodes, just keep watching because it's unexpectedly underrated. Banished from the hero's party, I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside is a wholesome romance between Chiroge and Kirito. This is one of the most generic isekai I've ever seen, and it's not even an isekai. Apparently, this is a normal fantasy anime, but I disagree. I know an isekai when I see one, and this is definitely an isekai. The author just hasn't realized it yet. Fantasy romance anime are probably my favorite type of anime to watch, so I really love this one. But don't expect me to tell you it's revolutionizing the genre or anything. I'm gonna give it B tier overall, but it might have been A tier if it was an isekai. Heike Monogatari is a historical anime that adapts a 13th century light novel. Back then they used to be called books. If you have any interest in Japanese history, then this is a must-watch. However, if you're not a historian, it's gonna confuse you more than a Psyduck, so it's important to remember that if you feel a bit lost, it's probably because us foreigners are not the intended audience. Regardless, the problem I have is how the main character's ability doesn't feel utilized. It's like if Subaru never died in Re:Zero, there's just something missing. I'm still gonna give it B tier because it's just a great production. I also plan on rewatching this because I feel guilty for not enjoying it as much as I could be. Tsuki to Laika to Nosferatu is that new anime about the Soviet vampire who became the first astronaut in human history. Aside from that unique premise, everything else is just consistently above average. I've been really enjoying this, but overall I think B tier is a fair evaluation. I love it, it's very interesting, but not everything has to be a masterpiece. The Faraway Paladin is another new isekai that's out of this world. It's gripping, emotional, and it encapsulates everything I love about isekai. Minus the lollies. It's basically diet Mushoku Tensei. World building is where this anime shines the brightest, but my favorite thing about it is actually the author. I follow him on Twitter and he just seems like a really good person, and that makes me want to support his series even more. Really, the only thing that could use improvement is the animation, so I'm gonna give this an A tier. It could easily move up depending on how the season goes, but definitely give this hidden gem a watch if you'd enjoy a lore-heavy fantasy setting with really nice world building. The Vampire Dies in No Time is a new comedy about a really weak vampire who dies roughly 15 times every episode. Luckily, he has the ability to return by death. It's rare for an anime to make me audibly laugh as much as this one does. The jokes are well structured and use a completely different kind of humor than we normally find in anime. Other than that, there's not a lot of substance, but the comedy alone makes this anime worthy of B tier. Ousama Ranking is probably the most difficult anime for me to rank due to how different it is, but it's the most creative production from this entire season. The overly cartoonish art style might be a deterrent at first, but you'll quickly realize it's perfect once you start watching. Ousama Ranking uses elements from Disney movies and mythology to tell the story of a protagonist who can't communicate. It's no exaggeration to call this an instant classic because it feels like the type of story that could be told for generations. I still think 86 and Mushoku Tensei are pretty much uncontested this season, but Ousama Ranking might end up in the same tier depending on how the rest of the season goes. For now though, I'm putting it in S tier, and I think everyone should experience this amazing anime. World's End Harem is an absurd, ecchi anime about a disease that wiped out practically all the men in existence, and now the world is ruled by women. Doesn't sound too bad if you're a feminist until you realize that the few surviving men are basically harem gods because the value of sperm is at an all-time high. Moral of the story is invest in cum. C tier. Sakugan is another new mecha that feels like a mix between Made in Abyss, Decadence, and Gurren Lagann. There's a heavy emphasis on exploration as well as a really sweet father-daughter dynamic between the two main characters. This is by no means a feel-good slice of life, so be prepared to get emotional. If you're a veteran of the mecha genre, this has an interesting twist you are guaranteed to enjoy. For now, I'm giving it a strong B tier, although the first episode was easily S tier. Really solid anime overall, and if you like mecha, you're gonna be hooked immediately. Demon Slayer is airing again, or so I've heard. I'm not even caught up yet, to be honest with you, but it's probably S tier, and the same applies to One Piece. And that's my tier list for the fall 2021 season. Please pause the video to bask in its glory and leave a comment to let me know where you agree and where you disagree. Remember, no tier list can ever be perfect, except for the next one I make for this upcoming winter season, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that, and please like the video because I sacrifice a lot of time to make these. That's all for now though. I gotta go perform an exorcism, so until next time, keep talking about anime. I'm out for now. Peace.